Good afternoon, or perhaps good evening. It is 5:55 p.m. on Thursday, September the 28th, 2023. I am the Wolfman, and this is Wolfman Monthly. It was Wolfman Weekly, however. Life's been coming at me pretty heavy over the last month and a half, and I have not been able to record a Wolfman Weekly episode every week. And so even though things will get, this is busy season and things will get lighter, I am certain at some point, I think, as I said in the beginning, I don't know if it'll be a week or bi-weekly or monthly. I think I'm going to kick it back to a month for a while, once a month, make sure that I do it at least once a month, and we'll see how that works out. And if we don't like it, we'll change it. So, what is Wolfman Weekly? If you're unaware, Wolfman Monthly is basically for people, meditators, specifically for people who are using the Wolfman method, which is a specific style of meditation that came to me in a channeling session a few months back now. It's not entirely different from a lot of other styles out there, but it's mine. It's, I believe in studying all of the teachers and philosophies and methods that you can. Sort of every time you come to a new teaching, you eat it, you absorb what's useful, and you shit out the rest. And so what that process has done for me eventually led to a meditation session, in which spontaneous channeling started happening, and I came up with the Wolfman method. And it was a fully laid out, several step method for spiritual growth, and I've been using it. Now, I haven't been able to use it as rigorously as I would like. I certainly have been doing 2 hours of practice a day. So, what I would like to talk about, though, because while this last month and a half, while life has been trying to knock me out, has not been incredibly productive when it comes to writing or posting videos or creativity in that sense, it has been very useful for my own personal spiritual development, and I've learned a lot. And so my whole view on reality has changed, has evolved since I recorded the original Wolfman Method videos, and I'm going to have to go through and redo them, which I do have a lot of them were done in the car, and so I at least have the ability to do them indoors in a noise-controlled environment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sort of lay them out a little bit better, and I'm going to, sort of group the material a little bit better, and I'm going to record them the best that I can, in an indoor space with noise control, and so on and so forth. But the concept of self, right? So when I talk about the Wolfman method in the videos, I talk about how everything is really one, but then on some level, you have a small self and a higher self, and then the universe, and you want to get all that in alignment. And that's the way that most of us look at it. At least the concept of self is very intuitive, but probably incorrect. And so I've from a few different teachers, actually, I've been exposed to this idea that the self itself is one of the primary illusions. And I'm sure I've been exposed to this idea before, but it never really hit. So I can explain, I understood it on some level, because one time my beloved said to me, "Are higher selves real?" And I started laughing, just spontaneously, just bubbling up. Of course not. Higher selves aren't real because the regular self isn't real. There's no self. It's the universe. There's one thing in the universe, and it is the universe, of which you are a feature. And so, of course, the higher self isn't real, but maybe it's a useful concept. And the self, again, isn't real. Me, I don't exist. as a concept. Now, there is a body here, and there is a mind that goes along with it, but what is this made of? It's made of, pork and beans and leafy greens. Pork and beans and leafy greens come in one side and go out the other in a completely different form, and ideas and energies come in and come out, and I have interactions with real people in real life, and with recordings of people on YouTube, and with ideas that come from outside of myself. But do I really generate any of the ideas? I don't think so. I feel like the ideas cross my mind. And so to start in practice, I had this dualistic idea, and I said this. I said, at my highest, I am able to experience the universe as two beings. Now, intellectually, I believe the universe is just one thing, but experientially, I am able to experience the universe as two beings, me and the other being, right? And so there's two beings in the universe, and you're one of them, and I'm the other one. And that was the highest experience I could do. Hold. And so, I experienced the universe as two beings, but now I'm beginning to realize that one of those beings isn't real. I'm not real. And here's how this works. So there's thoughts that arise, and there's sensations that arise, and there are things that I witness, and there are, actions, and the hand does the task, and the meat comes in, and the poop goes out, and the thoughts come in, and the thoughts arise, the feelings, they come and go. And at the center of this, originally, there is this I concept, where it's like at first, you go, at your highest, you go, okay, so I am not angry anymore. I am observing the anger, but there's still this I that is observing the anger. And then at a certain point, it was explained to me by at least two different teachers. I'll say Ramdev Dale Borglum was the first one that explained it to me, where I was ready. They say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I think in this case, well, actually probably in all cases, what that means is when the student is ready, the teacher, who has been there all of the time, becomes visible to the student. And when you're not ready, you look right at them and you can't see them. Just the way that cops and security guards can't see me when they look at me most of the time. Because I belong here. And I know it. I walk around like I belong here. I have my clipboards. Anyways. Isn't it nice just to be alive? There was a point. I was doing something. I was telling you something. There was a point to all of this. And it will come back to me. Give me a moment for silence and stillness. Imaginary darkness. Right. So at the beginning, the first move is to not be the anger or the fear or the story of whatever it is that you're caught in, but to observe it. But then at some point, you realize that there are thoughts crossing your mind, and you're not really generating them. So you're like, oh, I'm the observer. I'm the one who's observing the thoughts. Okay. I'm the one who's observing the anger. I am the one who's observing the action. Like, these legs are walking, and I'm watching them walk. I'm sitting in this still, quiet place inside myself, watching my body move about the world. And I'm not doing anything, but there's still an I. And then at some point, somebody comes along and says, hey man, is it necessary for there to be somebody watching all of this happen? Like, do you need to be a you in order to observe the things that are going on? Or can it just be that there is observation? And so it gets a little deeper and it goes, oh, there's no me at all in here. It's a body doing what a body does, And there's thoughts that arise and pass away, and there are emotions and physiological sensations that arise and pass away, and there are energies and materials that pass in and out of this experience. But there doesn't actually, ooh, that's a beautiful car. None of, it's like a 1915 something drop top, I don't know. The big spare tire on the front and the giant wheel. Anyways, easily distracted. There's distraction, but there's no one being distracted, right? Because there's no need for a concept of self in order to have an observation. There doesn't need to be someone observing. Yeah, observation is happening, yes, and it's only the language. Yes, language, right? Because we're told a sentence. What is a sentence? It's a subject and a verb that expresses a complete thought. And so, like, we say, it's raining. I stole this one from Alan Watts. It's raining. What is raining? What is the it that is raining? The general conditions of things is raining? Rain is raining. Raining is happening. There's no need for the raining to be being done by something other than the raining itself. A noun in our language is required to start a verb, but in reality, an object can never start a process. A process is always pushed by a force from outside. Another process is what starts the process. The nouns don't start verbs in real life. They only start verbs in language. And so our language says that nouns start verbs, and they don't. In reality, if you look around and you pay close attention, there aren't any nouns. There are only processes. There are no people, places, things. I guess there are ideas, but the ideas are ideaing. You know, they're moving through. They're being thought. These thoughts are thinkings, as Alan Watts would say. They're not, and I didn't understand it all those times that he said it because I wasn't ready, but I understand it now. These processes. There's no thoughts, there's only thinking. There's no nouns. There are no nouns in the universe. Everything is on fire, everything is melting, everything is being oxidized. It's all moving along quite nicely. The point. Because of the wonderful things he does. I have fun, and I hope people have fun watching me have fun. So, there's no necessity for a sense of self with its realization that, like, I'm not the one thinking. I've never generated a thought in my life. My brain generates thoughts, and I feel like I can dwell on a thought, or I can let it go. I can put my brain into certain conditions and parameters where certain thoughts are more likely to happen. I can pay attention to thoughts. I can direct my attention. But then I realized that, like, attention can go where it wants to go. And, like, it can even have a being directed quality without it being directed by someone. There doesn't need to be a concept of self at the center of this. And it's like, I might not exist. And so there were two beings in the universe, and one of them was me, and the other one was you, and now there's only you. And what am I? I is a shorthand that I will continue to use in speech to refer to this mind, this body, this recognizable pattern of thoughts and emotions and materials that arise and pass away and come in and go out, that is commonly known as the Wolfman, or Benjamin, depending on how much you want me to like you. But it's just like a whirlpool in a river. It is a recognizable pattern. Only whirlpools are made of water and air. And I, the recognizable pattern that is known as the Wolfman, am made of pork and beans and leafy greens and thoughts and emotions and energies. Right? So these things come in and they come out, and they arise and they pass away. And it's all a recognizable pattern. And, you can see it. So let's not pretend like you can't see me. You can see me. But at the center of this is nothing. There's no governing thing. It's not necessary for there to be a governing concept at the top of this. And so now, instead of being in a dualistic universe, I find myself experiencing a unified universe where there's only one being, and it's you. I don't exist, but you do. And I'm a part of you to the degree that I do exist. And that's all the words, again, I meant to say this earlier, but words, as I have said before, are paint. And the truth is an invisible land. And the more words we throw at the truth, the more likely it is that the listener will be able to grasp or grok the idea of the truth that we are trying to express. In the same way that the more paint you splash on the invisible man, the more likely it is that the other people will be able to see him. However, some of the paint gets on the walls and the floor. Not all the words are accurate. So if you hear a word and you go, that doesn't make any sense, discard it. That's paint that hit the floor. All right? These words are not the truth. They are paint that we are trying to splash on the truth. That's the metaphor. So go with that. I'm very happy, by the way, which I should say as there is very much happiness going on right here and right now in this mind and body and energetic, recognizable pattern that is commonly known as the Wolfman. One of the current constituent ingredients is great amounts of happiness. Life force energy. Lots of it. Ha! Okay. So I don't exist. Said to my beloved said to me, our higher self's real. I said, no, of course not. The self is an illusion. The higher self is a higher illusion. The universe is real, but maybe the beingness of the universe will go away at some point. It'll just be a field of things arising and passing away that doesn't have to be a self. Even the universal self may melt at some point, and then instead of being two and instead of being one, I'll be zero. And so conceptually, I understand the idea of zero. At the moment, I can, in my highest experience, I can experience one. I'm experiencing one, and let me tell you, baby, it's great. That was all preamble. That was 17 minutes and 52 seconds of preamble. Because that is not the point of this video. That was all sort of a correction of the real reinforcement of the concept of self and higher self that I baked into the Wolfman method, which I will remove from the new version, which I will start recording very soon, as soon as I can, but I'm going to do it more cleanly in a noise-controlled space with a better layout of information. And with a new understanding that the self doesn't really exist. It's a useful illusion. And so, allow me to collect myself as I try to figure out what the fuck the point of this video was, because there was a point. I'm going to pause the recording and I'm going to think about it. Okay, so I had to sit and think about it for a while. We have come home. I am parked in my driveway after I drove on the parkway. And I have come home, and here we are, and the second half of the video is about practice. What is the value of practice? And so there were two kind of illusions that I tried not to create, but I may have reinforced with my Wolfman method videos. And one of them is the idea of self, and the other one is the separation between practice and real life. Now, I will steal this from Emily Fletcher, of Ziva meditation, she says we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. And so I did try to explain this in my own way, and I think I did a fair job. A little. This body is experiencing a little bit of tension in the upper back and neck region to a level of distraction, and that's okay because the week is almost over. The body will not be required to lift too many more heavy objects this week to earn its bread. So what meditation is in the Wolfman method, so we have this concept of the small self, and we have this concept of the higher self, and we have this concept of the universe, and we have now understood that the self is a recognizable pattern of pork and beans and leafy greens and ideas and emotions and energies. And the higher self is just a higher recognizable pattern, mostly of energies, mostly non-physical. And the universe is a recognizable pattern of stars and galaxies and quasars and everything, right? Name a thing, and it's part of the pattern of the universe. But there's no it's, as we move from duality into unicity, there is no need for the self to be a being, or for the higher self to be a being, or for the universe to be a being. It's just whatever it is, man. It's a field. And so we move through our lives, and what the meditation is just, it's not even a self observing or existing. So it's not that you're just existing, it's that just existing. No subject, no noun, just existing. And so when we just sit, we're not just sitting. The language keeps fucking me up. Just sitting. That's what's happening. Just sitting. Not a person sitting, not you sitting, not me sitting, not the universe sitting, not the higher self sitting. Just sitting is happening. Hold. And so there's just sitting and just standing and channeled speech. And channeled through what? Through the body and the mind and the personality structure that is a recognizable pattern that commonly goes by your name. Of the higher version of that exists on other planes coming through the earthly plane version of that, none of which needs to be a person. It's just a recognizable pattern of pork and beans and leafy greens. And the universe may come through it, and God and the angels and the ETs and all that noise. And so the meditative state is one where the universe, which is not a being but a pattern, and the higher self, which is not a being but a pattern, and the small self or the individual self, which is not a being but a pattern, all these patterns are aligned. First, they're aligned, which allows the channeling to come through. The small self is holding no resistance, which is the small self, which is a pattern, not an actual self, not a being, which self kind of implies. So we need to come up with new words for these things. The small pattern does not have any resistance in it, and is in alignment with the larger pattern, which is in alignment with the infinite pattern. Excuse me. Oof, peppery. Gross. Anyway, right. So on the one hand, it is the feeling of alignment of these three patterns that we've recognized as important levels of pattern. There are infinite levels of pattern you could pick. But in the Wolfman method, we pick the individual lower, the individual higher, and the universal as the levels of pattern that we've selected. And these three levels are in alignment and without resistance. And also that nothing has happened that has sucked us in to the illusion of identifying as a being with a self. And so we'll go along through our lives and we will use words like I and you, because you can't just keep going, the recognizable pattern of matter and energy that is commonly known as the Wolfman. People will not sit, and when you can just say I, but you've got to change the meaning of I in your own brain. Your own brain, because language, right, keeps fucking us up. Right, so we go through our lives, we realize that there's only one thing in the universe, and it is the universe. And it's not a thing, it's a process. It's not a being, it's not a person. It's the universe, and it's universing. And you can look at small parts of it, and you can conceptually separate them, but you can never separate them in reality. There is no vacuum. And so the meditative state is understanding all of this and feeling the calm and the bliss that washes over you when you drop the cramp at the center of the pattern that is you, that you call a self. You let that go and you go, oh, here's a thought that's arising and passing away. Here's a thing that's happening. All these processes, you start to see verbs instead of nouns in everything that you do. And all of that tension that some of us hold right here, and some of us hold right here, and some of us hold right here, and you may hold wherever you hold it. All of that tension starts to drop away. And does anger still happen? Yes. And does fear still happen? Absolutely. And do stories still happen? Yes. And there's still thinking? Yes. And sometimes, do we begin to believe that we're a self again for a little while? Does the anger or the fear or the story trap us and make us identify with a self? Sure, probably. It's not necessary. It may be that it never, like, you hit this, you're ready for it, and you hear this video and you go, oh my God, I don't exist. And then you never think that you're in a you again. The believed thought of I am never comes through you again. It's possible. And what difference does it make? What difference does it make? Makes no difference. The universe is perfect. And whatever happens, happens. So there's no real difference between formal practice and the rest of your life. But the value of practice is that when you are confused, when you think you are a you, a self, a real solid self that is observing the things going on or doing the things going on or thinking the thoughts or whatever, when you get caught in believing that you are generating the thoughts that you're thinking, that there is a you and you are that you and you are generating the thoughts that you're thinking, you can go, oh, I've been here before. I'm slipping. I'm out of alignment, and or I believe in myself in the negative sense. And now, hold. So the value of practice is that when you are stuck, and when you believe that you're a you, and when you are out of alignment, you can feel it. And you can go, okay, I feel like a self. And I know that I'm not. And I feel out of alignment. And I know that I'm not. I know that there's nothing out of alignment in the universe. And the universe is a perfect Rube Goldberg machine. It goes all the way to the left and all the way to the right and back again and continues to make more love. And I know this to be true, but I feel like I'm out of alignment and I feel like a self. So tomorrow, I am going to practice. And so maybe you practice once and you have these insights. So yes, at the beginning, you're stuck to these concepts and you've never experienced it any other way. And maybe intellectually you understand that the universe is one thing, but you've never experienced it. Never experienced anything other than being your small self. You don't experience connection with your fellow man. You don't experience connection with the rest of the universe. Then you practice until you have an experience of it. Now, once you have the experience and you are floating through, not even existing, just not, it's not you that's observing, but just there is an observation that is happening of the things coming in and going out and arising, passing away. Do you need to keep practicing? I don't know. I don't think so. Now, if practicing happens, then great. But you have been practicing for, however long it took to free yourself from these illusions, and you've become free. At that point, if practicing doesn't happen, then practicing doesn't happen. But the value and the power of practice is that if you find yourself stuck again, which is how it's happened for, quote me, end quote, is that I've been me and I've been out of alignment. And then I've practiced and I've gotten into alignment and I've gotten to not be me. And then I've floated there for a while and then I've gotten caught. Like something happened, something scary, something angering, something that made me really feel like a self that needed to defend itself. Happened, it pulled me back in, and then a couple days later I realized, shit. I've identified with myself and I am out of alignment, and here we are, and time to implement the practice again. And so you practice until you get free again. And sure, is it possible that you will get free and stay free forever? I don't see why not. The value of practice is to build the habit of being free, because it's much easier to disidentify with yourself in a quiet room before anybody else gets up, in a designated amount of time where all of the things that trigger your self's defenses have been pushed outside of the fence. You've set aside a space and a time where your self is completely safe, so it's got no triggers. And so that illusion doesn't have the impetus to try to grab you, and it's able to relax. That cramp in the center of all of the processes is able to relax. And when it relaxes enough, it goes completely the fuck away. Once you have achieved selflessness, and once you have achieved, the language keeps fucking me up. Once selflessness has been achieved, and once alignment has been achieved, if practice doesn't happen, then fine. But if selflessness flickers or alignment flickers and you find yourself as a self out of alignment, then start practicing again. So I believe in my roundabout, rabbit trail-y kind of way that the pattern of leafy greens and pork and beans and thoughts and energies that is commonly known as the Wolfman has made his point. That having been said, I love you. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and most importantly, share. May your heart be happy. May your mind be clear. May you find satisfaction in all your endeavors and ultimate satisfaction. Kon omne, kono yoko, ubu kundu. So be it, so mote it be, so ha.